Okay, welcome everyone to another live Q&A from Life at the Turn with Scott Burnett of BGT Golf. We're really excited to have Scott on because you guys have had some new products come out in the last little bit, and this is our first time talking to you and BGT Golf as well. So really excited to have you on. I'm going to turn the floor over to you and have you introduce yourself to our community and everyone else watching, and tell us a little bit about your background, and then we can get into BGT.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I have a bachelor and master's degree in mechanical engineering. I've worked in the golf industry since, I guess, late 90s. I've worked for, I guess, most of the companies. I basically ran Titleist Golf Club R&D for 5 years. I was the director of Metalwood R&D for TaylorMade for a couple of years, and a research engineer there. I ran product research, I guess we would call it, or I think they called it innovation at Callaway Golf for 7 years, from 2007, 2014. And then I worked for Adams Golf, and I ran the product development for Adams Golf back when it existed, prior to TaylorMade buying them. And so it's been, over whatever that is, close to 30 years. and here I've been consulting with BGT, basically a company that started in around 2018. It was started by Barney Adams, who was the founder of Adams Golf back in the day, who kind of got back into it. And so I've been both consulting, and now I work full-time for BGT as the head of research and development. And that's kind of where we're at now.
It's interesting because I was going through, someone had sent your CV over, and I have a Adams DHY hybrid back there that I still put in the bag every so often, because it's like there's no other club like it on the market that I can find. So especially when I go play more link style courses, it's just this perfect club. And I'm pretty sure that one came out around your time with Adams Golf. So I have to give you a little props there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's very exciting. What a rich history, and that's I can only imagine the stories and information that you've gathered over that time. Tell us a little bit about BGT. I mean, my first recollection of BGT was their stability putter shaft. That actually, I remember it being available in lab putters, and it being kind of the bigger one. I think Bryson used the stability putter for a while in one of his putters too. But you guys have definitely expanded your lineup over the last several years now.
Sure. Yeah. BGT, like I said, got going, I guess. The company got the initial product ready in around 2018, and it was a stability putter shaft. To your point, it's a multi-piece putter shaft that Barney kind of had spearheaded and thought of. And really, it was a reaction to the mallet, oversized putter heads, kind of creating some instability during the putting stroke. The motion was kind of unstable, so they came up with a multi-piece shaft that allowed it to be very stiff and stable during the stroke. And then that was really the only product till a little after COVID. Launched a driver and fairway wood shaft called the Brava and a Brava Tour, and so started selling a driver shaft. Launched a wedge shaft, and so we also have a wedge shaft that's built on the multi-piece technology, kind of stability, same stability framework. And then here recently, within the last year, we decided to launch a putter to get into the entire kind of complete club business, called the Paradox, and putter, and it's kind of has a unique technology story. That's why we decided to launch it. And we will, it's basically a center shafted, or as everyone calls them now, zero torque models. We have a blade and and a mallet of that, and we'll start to come out with other versions of that because it's not dependent upon being either center shafted or zero torque. So we can have hosels and different toe hangs with our technology base. And then also here recently, probably one of the reasons I've been asked to talk is we also have launched updating the Brava shaft. We've come up with a Forta driver and fairway wood shaft is what we're calling it. And we'll soon have a Forta Tour, which is a heavier version. But we basically took what we learned with the Brava driver and fairway wood shaft, and we've updated the specifications and the design of that to improve it. So that's kind of where we sit now. We have a lot of other products now, it kind of in the pipeline. So you'll start to see a lot more aggressive product launches from BGT here coming within the next year or two.
That's really exciting. So let's start with kind of the Brava. Is it still a current lineup within the BGT family?
Yeah, we have just replaced it with the Forta. So the Brava, we basically took the Brava based on, we do a lot of almost exclusively player testing. That's how we basically get our information on how we are going to design, shafts or any product. And so, so the Forta is an update of the Brava. We basically made the tip section stiffer and the butt section and a little bit softer in the middle. And we found people performed better with that shaft than even the Brava. So it allowed us to step up. So it has now replaced the Brava.
Okay. Because I remember the Brava being a very lightweight shaft. Like it was, I'm just trying to recall if it was almost some sub 50 grams in several of the models.
Yeah, they're in the mid 50s, I guess, by the year in the SRS. So we are a little lighter it's our mainline shaft, and that's a little lighter than most of the companies have as their mainline shaft. But yeah, we found that works a little bit better for more people.
Hand up, I'm one of those guys. I love that 55, 58 range. That's kind of my sweet spot. So excited to see that. Heavy shafts don't jive with me at all. Okay, so the Forta is your new lineup. You kind of mentioned the different profile in it. I saw on the site it's kind of compared to a Ventus. Well, the graph, I should say, it compares it to a Ventus Blue and an Auto Power. And the Auto Power is it's the not really super flexy one from my recollection. So what kind of, I guess, how do you go through your testing process to find and get these data points, and what type of golfers do you feel these shafts typically fall into?
Yeah, sure. Our testing for this, we tried to use what I would call, average players. The typical golfer is what we're trying to hit the big middle of the pack. We picked Ventus Blue. We picked what we thought were, and like you said, the Auto shaft. We tried to pick the one that we thought fit the best into that group, especially for marketing purposes. But what we will do is we will have players essentially, we'll use both TrackMan and/or we have a GC quad system. We have a full testing setup both inside and we can go outside, and we will have them hit both shafts. Essentially, we'll have them hit a number of shots, alternating, trying to make sure that different players hit the different ones at a different order so that we don't mess any of that up. And so we will have them hit all of them. And once we have a pretty large sample of players that fit our group, then we will go in and analyze the data. And that's what's really changed. I know everybody talks about it, but this has kind of been our first product where we actually used a lot of AI to analyze our data, because we were having a hard time before. We had to go in and manually either write software code or go in and try to manipulate the data that we would download from TrackMan, for instance. And this time we used Gemini a lot. We would just drop the data sets in there, and then we could go in and do a lot more, intensive analysis of the data once we got that. And so, and we also do use a lot of that analysis tools to compare it to the specifications of the shafts as we do different tests to try to correlate those to different performance parameters. So that's how we ended up comparing it to Ventus Blue, I think, is the one we picked for the marketing purposes, because it's kind of, we thought, I don't know, what would you call it, state of the art, or one of the more accepted ones, and to use that as our comparison.
Yeah, I think the Ventus Blue, it's I actually have never personally swung the Ventus Blue Velocore version. Just never been one that's really been on the table for me. But I mean, they look great. I love the coloring design. I did note, so you have four different flexes, and you kind of label them. You don't necessarily label them as senior, stiff, regular, or X. You have the F2 to F5. Is there anything within that that's worth kind of taking note of in terms of the different flexes?
They're just, to me, it's almost
Yeah.
the whole number in them F5, and it's a bit of a marketing ploy, but yeah, I mean, and I think we list the actual, the more familiar XS, R, and A kind of standard nomenclature there, and try to kind of give people an idea of the club head speeds that will generally fit into the different flexes, and to your point that you made before, the weight does change throughout the flexes a little bit, maybe a little more than what you would normally see, because we found that works as we are focusing on those different players that would end up playing those different flexes.
And how would you describe the feel, or how have your testers, is probably a better question, how have they described the feel of the Forta shaft?
Yeah, and that's the thing that we actually think that we made the most improvement on the feel versus both our competition and the Brava. That was really the main reason why we kind of altered the stiffness profile, because players responded to that, to the prototypes that we were making when we were trying to replace it. They responded very positively to that versus our current product and the competition that we were up against.
Okay. And so let's say, I guess I'm a good example. I'm about 100 miles an hour. So I'm kind of right in between that, according to this, the F4 and the F5. Would there be a recommendation for, would you suggest people play a stiffer or a slightly softer flex if they're in that kind of tweener range?
Yes, I'm more of a fan, and we've been more of a fan of playing a little bit softer of a flex. If you're kind of in between, that tends people tend to like the feel of that and perform better. As you may be aware, and just the general public, generally people overestimate how stiff of a shaft they should play, for whatever reason. So yeah, I would go down a little bit before I would go up in flex.
Was there any other, we've seen with many different shaft companies, a hyper focus on torque, and trying to get those torque numbers really, really low. The torque numbers within the Forta lineup, I would say they're right. I'd say they're kind of, I don't want to say average, but they're kind of in a normal range. Have you found any, over the years, any correlation to torque and feel and anything along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the issues with torque, and yeah, you may or may not be aware of it, but it's measured. It's measured very different. It's measured a little differently by different companies, and we even have issues with suppliers. We kind of have our own internal numbers, and we know that we have to translate those. But yes, one of the big issues we have found it's not a great idea to go with really low torque driver shafts, and a very basic thing that we actually see in our test data that you can actually measure is across the population of players, the lower torque you get, the more people will tend to hit the ball right. And if they will tend to fade the ball more. And then if you have a little bit less torque or more of a normal torque, they have a little bit easier time turning the ball over. So we found that being kind of in that, like to your point, that middle torsional stiffness range benefits more players. Because if you get a little too high torque or low torque, it'll actually cause people to hit the ball a little more right, is something we've observed. And that's not good generally for most people. And so,
yeah.
Anyway.
Interesting. And then I also noted there's a kind of a twisting technology that's kind of built within it to help. Hopefully, the shaft should hopefully help the club twist less. Can you describe that in a little bit of detail, or is that maybe patented that it might be a little bit under wraps?
No, I mean, I mean, these shaft designs are because we use a lot of technology to measure and see how things are moving. And what really it boils down to is dialing in both the weight distribution, the stiffness profile, and the torsional stiffness profile to get the best, performance. And one of the things we look at a lot, we have high speed cameras, and this comes from the putter kind of shaft development. We end up looking at a lot of, well, how is the club head moving through the impact zone? And so we feel like we've dialed in the specifications to where we've minimized that. That's something that I think we're kind of, I mean, this company's been kind of unique at really focusing on that aspect of, golf swings and golf club development.
This is kind of tangent, but since coming to BGT, and I'm sure you had lots of experience with carbon fiber and such, but how much have you kind of learned about different carbon fibers, and how much has that carbon fiber kind of technology evolved over the last few years since you've been with BGT?
Yeah, I think really, the materials haven't changed much, honestly. The different carbon fiber materials. It's what has kind of, I guess you would say improved, and I would say it's actually across the industry, is the quality. I mean, the products have gotten more consistent. I don't think it's exclusive to BGT necessarily either, but I think the manufacturers have gotten better. And I think the companies are better at monitoring the quality and ensuring that they get good product. And so I don't think there's been any, great material jump, but there has been an improvement in manufacturing quality for sure.
And just because it's been kind of a hot topic over the last while within particularly driver shafts, we've seen a lot of companies say they have spineless designs, and there's a winding technologies in that. Is there first, what is your take on spineless designs, especially within the Forta lineup?
My personal view of the whole spining thing is generally I think it's a bit of a marketing game. I don't think that it's really affecting the performance. I think that initially, back in the old days, whenever carbon fiber shafts were first beginning to be manufactured and made, I think there were some flaws in how the products were made. And I think it was an issue in that. I'm talking 20 years ago. Yeah. But I think now, with the consistency of the manufacturing methods, the quality of them, I don't think that's an issue really that most people should be worried about.
I'm right there with you. I think it's, as you said, the qualities have improved, the technology's improved, and but
yeah, I mean, actually,
we also know that
it's actually an interesting point, because I remember, and this was 25 years ago when Barney initially would only use filament wound shafts initially. And if like the way all the golf shafts now are made by, they have a mandrel, and basically you roll it like a cigar with different layers of carbon fiber on it. And the shafts were a bit inconsistent, there was a lack of consistency. And so a lot of people they actually have these, I don't know if you're aware of it, because it kind of went away, but they had these machines that would wind carbon fibers around a mandrel, which made it completely consistent. You didn't have like the roll thing, but as the technology improved, those shafts kind of went away, and the benefit of them being spineless or very symmetric was taken care of as people figured out how to basically do these mandrel, these rolled shafts. And so that's what dominates the market now.
Exactly. And I ask because I know golfers are creatures of habit. So, and especially if there's something that maybe was more prevalent 10, 15, 20 years ago, those ideas get ingrained in their brain, and it's very hard for some golfers to let go of those. Okay, I'm sure there might be some more questions leading into it. Bill quickly said he loves the color scheme. and we'll actually get to Patrick's question now. Is the shaft profile you want to make that you just have not been able to, what's your shaft? Okay, so I think it boils down to this. What is your shaft profile white whale? So is the Forta that profile, or is there something that's still a little bit elusive?
No, I mean, we obviously think from what we've learned and through our testing, we focused on trying to get the stiffness profile that we ended up with in the Forta. We don't know of a better or superior, stiffness profile that we can't get, because that is a good question. Because there's, there's been issues. We've talked about it even at our company of doing a multi-piece, driver shaft,
Okay.
because but we're still kind of trying to figure out what the benefit would be, because what kind of stiffness profile would that get us in a driver shaft that would be beneficial. But no, we feel like in this shaft, with the single piece shaft technology right now, that we can accomplish what we think is optimal, and we think we did it, in this shaft.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm really excited to talk paradox putters. So now I'll admit I'm a lefty, so I feel a tiny bit left out, but I can putt really well right-handed. So when I can specifically recall when these came out, and kind of the hype videos that were on Instagram and the promotional teasers leading up, it was very exciting. And then they came out and they looked nothing like any of the other low torque, zero torque models that had come out before. For those that aren't familiar with the paradox putter, can you give us a little bit of a rundown of what they are, some of the materials, and the design philosophy?
Sure, they are definitely unique, is what I will tell you. This in the properties that we went for. We went for a thing, and it's somewhat difficult to explain unless you're kind of into three-dimensional dynamics. But one of the things you hear people talk about is inertia, right? A lot with club heads, and I think people are familiar with that. That's kind of the resistance to rotating, And so if a club has a lot of mass toward the perimeter, it will have a high inertia, and it'll be very forgiving for off-center hits. I think most people kind of have that idea. Well, one of the properties of a club head that has been really ignored is what is called the principal axes of inertia. So it's what it ends up being is that there are certain, and this is for any three-dimensional body, but for any club head, there's an axis where the inertia is the highest, and it's an axis pointing in some direction, and it's fairly random in most putter heads, kind of pointing all over the place. And then there's an axis where the inertia is the lowest, and then there's an axis, and they're at 90-degree angles, that's kind of intermediate, And so what we decided to do, one of the things that is known is that the axis of rotation that is the highest inertia, a body will actually move and rotate stably about that axis. So if you have a body that has like a frisbee, the frisbee, the highest inertia, it's kind of an easy one, is the one pointing kind of straight up, and when you spin it will cruise at a stably. So what we decided to do was looking at putter swings and how people swing putters. We decided that we would design a putter that had the principal axis of inertia. The highest inertia would be basically pointing up, would be pointing at the point of rotation that it is going to rotate during the swing, if that makes sense. So, and just to make it real clear, is what happens is on a putt, about 10 degrees from the vertical is about the axis that the putter is rotating about. It kind of, it's the axis that's pointing like right in this between your shoulder blades, right? You're kind of rotating. If you think of a player, it's about 10 degrees, like if you thought of it as a 10-degree line angle. So we had to come up with this unusual shape because we wanted to tilt that principal axis to be aligned with that point of rotation so that we would get stable motion through the putter swing. That was the whole concept of it. So it required both kind of a novel use of materials and a novel shape to make that happen. Because like on an answer putter, for instance, the highest axis, the max principal axis of inertia on like a typical Newport or any ping answer, points straight out of the face. like on a typical blade. I mean, it's totally not
Okay.
aligned with it. On
Yep.
a mallet, on a lot of the mallets that are big and kind of very symmetric, it points, some of them will get to the point where it kind of just points straight up, which isn't horrible. That's getting closer. But on these, we wanted it to get on this 10-degree axis where it was lined up right between your shoulder blades, right where the putter is rotating, and then we could get more stable motion through the swing. And so that was the whole concept. So what that required is that we ended up having to distribute the mass high on the toe, lower on the heel. So we end up with this kind of triangular shaped face. We had to put mass, the higher density mass up high on the toe and the lower density mass low on the toe to get it all aligned for both the mallet and the blade. And so that allowed us to have the principal axes aligned. And again, it's completely unique. Unbelievably, it's unique. Like, I've worked at a lot of golf companies, and we would always look, like if you do a CAD file, if you have a CAD model in front of you, you'll see like the principal axes, there'll be this little dimension system.
Okay.
And we would always go, I wonder what that is. I wonder if we should do something about that. And we never did. We would just kind of look at it. We would just design it to the basic specs in the ground plane, and we never messed with it. But we decided in this, since our name is a breakthrough golf technology, let's do something that no one else has done. And the cool thing about it is we can do that on basically any golf club head. So it opens it up for drivers, for fairway woods, for irons, wedges. They're all misaligned, so it gives us a chance to go across any club head. Unlike zero torque, or we made these zero torque or center shafted, but that's not the base technology. They could have a hosel on them, have toe hang. It's completely independent of where the center of gravity is relative to the shaft. So that's kind of the story of the Paradox mallet and the two that we have now. We are getting ready to come out and kind of broaden the line, because this is very narrow. So we will start to have different toe hangs, different hosels. So we will start that game. But yeah, it's a pretty cool technology. Again, it's very flexible, and it's completely novel. There's no other club head that has that property, that actual physical property, which is kind of unbelievable, having been around this industry for so long. But yeah, anyway. So
I mean, it's interesting, because when you look at the face of it, I think that's what a lot of people probably, at least it's what I first noticed, was the triangular-ish shape. And I went, okay, that's interesting. And the one thing I really like with it is that you have the visible technology of the weights in there. I think that's something that, I mean, it's been talked ad nauseum for visible technology, but it's something that is kind of nice to see. But the one thing I didn't really notice until it was doing reading a few different articles about it, but it was actually, it's like you're talking about here, this cutout where you've taken even more of that weight out from that toe section, and it's the same on the blade and the mallet. And so you've moved that higher and to the toe, or to the heel, sorry.
So to really get the principal axis, basically in the principal axis of inertia, the one that we're talking about is the one of maximum inertia rotation about it. So it ends up being it's the one that points up, and if you actually look at the face on view, what we were trying to do, and we actually made the geometry to where you can kind of see it, is that the top line is at a 90-degree angle from the angle of the principal axis of inertia. So it's at a 10-degree angle. So the principal axis of inertia is coming straight up. It's just slightly off of the off of what the actual lie angle is. And so what we had to do to get that to happen is to get it at that angle, we had to put a lot of mass up high on the toe, and we had to put a lot of mass down low. And then we wanted to remove mass that was low on the heel. So we had to get it all to tilt, and we still wanted the center of gravity to be right in the center, right in the right spot, and all of that. So anyway, so that's why it's shaped like that. And yeah, there's not a lot of, the only other putters, there's some older putters that just, I think, accidentally were shaped like that. Like I've seen like Scotty Cameron putters that kind of had that angle on them. But yeah, it's definitely novel. We definitely get comments about it. So it's definitely an unusual. I've actually been a little surprised by how I always kind of forget how unusual people think it looks. But I guess maybe we looked at it too long before actually launching it. So anyway.
Well, and I'm going to get to that in a second, but it's interesting because at address, like I have the photo of the mallet up there, you can't really tell at all. It looks completely normal at address.
Yeah, and that was the intent. That was the intent, is that we thought we were going to get pretty close to normal. We actually, and being engineers, and that's who, we don't have, unlike if you're at a large company, we don't really have anybody overseeing us. So we thought it was kind of cool that you could see that you could see the triangular shape. You could see that the technology was tilting the principal axis. And so, yeah, this is what happens when you let engineers go wild on a putter and don't have some marketing and industrial designers keeping you in line.
I love it. Okay, so you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but how long was the Paradox putter from conception to market?
It was probably 2 years by the time we actually had locked down. And that's pretty normal. I mean, I don't know if you've talked to it takes, even if you have a very well developed idea or concept, it usually takes about a year, even if you know exactly what you're going to do. But usually you can add another year to that by the time you make prototypes and kind of dial in the design. Right. But so anyway, but yeah, it was a couple of years before we actually got it there.
I should have scrolled down a little further while you're talking about the principal axis.
And see, this is pointing out that, like, that's a picture of Rob there. He's the design engineer actually who did it. Did a lot of the grunt work. But so that's showing you where that principal axis is pointed, like right up between his shoulders, right? And that's where we had to align it. And believe it or not, it's completely novel. There's no other putter head or club heads even that are aligned where the principal axis is, pointing right about the points of rotation.
And you mentioned that you can do it for different heel shafted and toe hangs. Is there any change, or is it just the club head itself, the putter head? It doesn't matter what sort of heel, like slant neck, plumber's neck, double bend, whatever it is, it'll still remain the same performance wise.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So it will, and that's one of the things that we've had a lot of people request, is just like you said, plumber's neck, slant neck, face balance. So you will see those shortly. We have those kind of in the hopper, because a lot of I think the center shafted / zero torque thing, it's still kind of a unique kind of thing for most players. Still a lot of players like to have quote unquote toe hang. And so we'll start to come out with those to kind of broaden the appeal.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's, what a heck of a release for a first product, like a first non-shaft product, I would say.
Yeah. We could not have gotten Barney to launch it if it wasn't novel. that was the thing. He was not going to let something just like another thing get out there. So he was definitely the inspiration to do something novel.
And for those that are looking at ordering one, are there other custom options kind of available with this? Can you change lie angle, anything like that, if requested?
I don't right now. We don't change lie angle. I don't think so. Yeah, it's basically available in the links, the 3 links, and then that's kind of it right now. So it's pretty straightforward.
I would imagine if you change the lie angle a little bit, it might, I don't know, maybe it might change a few of the properties, but and then as we were talking about stiff, so which actually is a good segue into the putter shafts, the stability shafts. Ultra stiff, ultra low torque. You kind of mentioned that part of that has to do with the mallets, but and putter heads basically getting heavier over time. I'm sure 15, 20 years ago, putter heads were at least 30, 40, 50 grams lighter, I would imagine. And they seem to be just getting heavier and heavier and heavier over time.
Yeah, and that's what kind of led to the stability shaft in the first place, was that yes, shafts, putter heads have gained in mass, they've gotten heavier, and they've also gotten larger. And you're now, mallets are way more. 20 years ago, everybody was playing blades, so all of that occurred, and so that kind of led us to the stability, both in the kind of different from the driver and fairway wood shaft. With the putter shaft and even wedge shafts, we find it is very positive to be very low torque and to have a lot of tip stiffness and stability there, because you don't have the same feel issues and same kind of dynamic issues that are going on with the driver or fairway wood shaft. And that's where our multi-piece shaft gives us a real advantage, because not only do we have the ability we have the upper section, but we have what I think a lot of people, and it's a little bit of it's on our website, but we have the tip section that we can design very stiff and stably. But we also have a pretty good overlap section, because we have an insert, a metal insert in there that gives a real stiff section down there where the two pieces are kind of mated together. And so that gives us a very, very stiff tip section area of the shaft.
And for those who may not be aware, so it's carbon fiber top and it's a steel section at the bottom.
Correct.
That goes into the head. So
yeah.
How long does the steel bottom go into the carbon fiber piece?
It's like an inch and a half, inch and a quarter. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Kind of like the length ish of the ferrule.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that.
Which is they just look really cool. Do you have to get a special grip though for the shaft? Because visually it looks bigger than what would be a standard, but that might just be the difference in the step.
I think that is, it's really, I think the fact that the upper section on the Tour one tapers down slightly, but the Carbon Pro is parallel, so it tends to make it look larger diameter, because in the middle of the shaft it is larger diameter, but by the time you get up to the grip, you can use a standard grip on them. And the fact that we use the whole idea initially, and the reason on the putters, the steel tip section, is because you can do all the bends and all the crazy varieties of different putter tip diameters and all that. And so that's why we maintain the steel tip section, so we can accommodate all of those options.
That makes a lot of sense. And and you talked about the wedges, they're kind of the same basic core principles. There's not too much that's changed along there between those and the putters.
The only difference is it does have a carbon fiber tip. We have a carbon fiber tip because we don't have to deal with the all of the options that you have on a putter. So we can do a carbon fiber tip, which allows us a lot of flexibility. And again, we have the Red Zone is the name of our current wedge shaft, but I guess salespeople probably won't want me telling you, but we're getting close, and we'll have another wedge shaft coming out here pretty quick also, that's an update of that model, and so that will be kind of exciting too.
And so it sounds like 2026 is going to be a pretty fun, exciting year. And it seems like there's going to be a lot more to come going into kind of 2027 potentially as well. Are there hopeful plans to make clubs other than putters? I mean, if you can't say so, then just say.
Yeah, we will make clubs other than putters. Yeah. Well, right now, this year we will fill out our I'll call it fill out our putter line by adding different hosel options, like you mentioned, exactly the ones you mentioned: plumber's neck, slant neck. We'll have a face balanced option of the Paradox putters. So those will all be coming, and then there will be at some point there will be other club options coming, and probably later this year.
And that must be just really exciting for you, given your engineering background and your history across all the different brands, where you get to really be creating something truly your own and unique.
Oh yeah, it couldn't be a better job if you're a golf R&D person. We have a couple of guys. It's just me and a couple other guys who I've worked with for a long time, who are getting to do it. And it's, yeah, it couldn't be more fun than to be at a company this size, trying to, basically starting from essentially almost scratch, to try to get things going. So yeah, no, it's a great job.
How big is the team at BGT?
The entire company is around 15 people, and
Really?
and we have a few, and that's about half, I guess, are directly involved in product. We have 4 people, 3 or 4, depending, out back, because we do all the assembly. Our products actually require assembly, the multi-piece shafts, and we do that here. We do that in Dallas, and we get components. Some of the components, not all the components, are made overseas. We have some made in the U.S., but we do all the assembly at BGT. And we have three or four people involved in R&D, product development. And it's all guys who have been around a long time, not as long as me, but close. And so it's been fun, and people that we've worked together in the past, most of us. So it's been fun to kind of get the crew together, and yeah, it's a great environment.
Bill, I think he's a Dallas resident. So any chance for a shop tour of the Dallas facility?
Oh, absolutely. If anybody wants to, either is in Dallas or wants to come by, wants to get fit, we have a whole little fitting, thing that you can go through. But yeah, absolutely. Because we have a pretty good, now we have, just there, not only do we have, you can go tour the facility, the assembly area and all of that, but we have, a nice test area, with, TrackMan and GC Quad. We have a tour putt system, which is the,
okay.
We do quite a bit of testing on that, because we're partnered up with that company. I think they're based in Fort Worth, Tour Putt. I think their U.S. operations are out of Fort Worth right now, Korean company, and so they do that. And so yeah, we have a system there that you can come and go through it, and we'll take you through the whole thing. You can see we actually have a putter robot that's set up in there, and we do a lot of robot testing on putters, believe it or not, more so than we do on full clubs. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me know, and you can come in there.
Okay, Bill, I'm gonna, because I'm based in Switzerland, so I'm a little bit of a ways away, but
yeah.
I think Bill, I might send you on a little road trip there. So
oh yeah, absolutely. I'll do it.
And I mean, so you said the smaller group, I mean, there must be a lot of benefits within that, because you get to bounce these ideas off of it. But what are some of the kind of the craziest ideas that you guys have cooked up over the last while?
Oh man, okay. I don't even know if I should share all those, but yeah, there's been, one we've tried, and I don't know, we'll do, like, one of them is to do, obviously, since we have a multi-piece shaft, one of the things that people have mentioned and wanted is the detachable tip section, so that you could put on different tips, and that type of thing. We've actually, for some putter fitting companies, we've provided, like, they wanted, like, the ability to use the same upper putter shaft section, but then be able to just automatically click in different tips and head sections for a fitting set.
Okay.
That's one, but we've never really gone to market with any of that type of stuff. And so we've tried that. And like I said, we've tried multi-piece, and we keep doing it in different categories of shafts and all that. So, but yeah, no, that we can do lots of, we've definitely explored some goofy ideas, but I think now we're finally locked in to where we're kind of have good concepts. I think that in this, what's been nice, I think, with this this technology in the Paradox putter, the principal axis technology, it's a good base technology for all the products. And we haven't even completely quantified. We're almost 100% sure. Really, the concept came from, metal woods, drivers, fairway woods, and irons, actually, and we applied it to putters. But we think there may be even more benefits in some of the other product categories because of the higher speeds of impact, and all that type of stuff. So anyway, so yeah, it's all exciting stuff going forward. So should be fun.
And currently, I mean, if someone's to start looking for the putters or the shafts, any of them, do you know if they're available in shops, or is it mainly through the website? Where's the best place for people to find and get fit for these products?
Well, yeah, good question. The best play, obviously, if you can, our website is a good option. We have customers, like I think Club Champion's a big one. I know that. I'm not completely read in on all the people we sell to. Sorry about that. I know they don't let me talk to sales.
We'll feed everyone to the website. That's what we'll do. Everyone just go to the website.
Yeah, they don't let me talk to the sales thing, but I know Club Champion's a big fitter, and then our website, and like I said, the nice part is if you happen to be in Dallas, you can always come by and we'll fit you right there. I think you can do it all in-house if you would like.
That's incredible. Do you know like how many, because we normally get this question, usually it's afterwards, but what is tour usage like for BGT? Do you kind of have an idea of that?
Yeah, well, as you know, one of the difficult things as a small company with especially PGA Tour usage is it's essentially pay for play, right? We have had some players play it anyway, but we can't really necessarily use their their name, image, and likeness. So we have had some play for sure. And we've actually kind of more focused on, believe it or not, like college players, because we have more access to them without having a big budget to pay them contracts. And even we've had some luck even on some of the mini tours of getting players in product. But right now we're kind of building to that, I would say, And the other thing that is nice is we do get a lot of interaction with Dallas as a home for a lot of professional golfers.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of interaction with a lot of the players who live there. They come by. We have one of the personnel involved in our R&D group, believe it or not, is a very active teacher. And he ends up being an instructor for a lot of the local players. So it's, so we do get a lot of interaction, but it's a bit more challenging at a small company to get, to have the money to pay contracts to get those guys to play product at the top level.
Does it, I think for fairly obvious reasons, when they are successful using the product, things can blow up. We saw that with Lab, especially when Adam Scott and JJ Spawn and those other guys started winning. When someone starts doing really well with your products, do you see how important is that to BGT that you have that I guess that greater presence on the more elite tours?
It's to some degree, but I mean, it's like, I think like Barney and a lot of the older guys would tell you that the problem with the tour for a small company is not only do you have to get the product in play, but you have to be able to communicate it. And so there's barriers to both of those things unless you're paying contracts. And the other thing that happens, and I don't know how read in all of you guys are, like on the PGA Tour, if we go out and we get name the player to play, Scotty Scheffler starts playing the Paradox putter, there's going to be all hell break loose, right, on his equipment contract deal.
Yeah.
And so it's a challenge to try to play at that level. That's why we've kind of focused at more at kind of the the collegiate and the mini tour levels where that pressure isn't there. And we can still get feedback, because we do want feedback from very skilled players, and we can still work with those guys who live in the local. They'll still kind of come by. They come by our place and they'll test and kind of and go do the instruction thing. But to actually get them to play it is it's a complicated deal until you're willing to pay, till you have kind of the money to pay people.
Yeah, it's definitely a convoluted. One of the more convoluted sides of golf. Overall, Scott, I can't thank you enough for your time. This has been fantastic. It's a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure we could dig in for another hour on the different stories of past innovations and work that you've done. But I did promise Tracy that I would keep you to about an hour. So yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with or come from BGT over the next while. This conversation has definitely sparked a lot more interest. Maybe left-handed something will be in the pipeline down the road, 16, 18 months from now.
That kind of actually kind of surprises me, because I know that we sent left-handed designs off, so I'm going to have to find out from our ops guys what's going on, because I know we did it.
I'm for the guys, I'm probably a broken record because I bring this up on most of these calls, but I mean, we have a couple lefties here that I can see, but I mean, we are the smaller market and it's expensive to make clubs for us. So I feel like I'm knowledgeable enough to know, not hold grudges. I understand the economics of golf, and I mean, both my kids are starting to slowly swing clubs, and I have them a right-handed set because it's just it's easier. Yeah. It's going to be easier for them.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm going to have to find out, because I know that we sent off left-handed designs and sampled them. And the nice thing about these putters in particular is they're machined. They're 100% machined. Right. So it's not difficult to make, left. It's different than if you're making cast tooling or forged tooling. So we should have had those out there, but I'll have to find out about that now. You have my,
you did actually bring up one last question. The putter head itself, what are the materials that it's made out of?
It's made out of
tungsten in there, but
yeah, but it's steel. It's so we have both a stainless steel. It's the actual body is aluminum of the black part. The black part is aluminum for low density purposes, and then the silver sections are the higher density, and they are stainless steel. There's no tungsten per se, but we have the high density steel married with the low density aluminum, and so that's the color differences that you see.
And as I'm looking at it, the base design on it's different. It's a little bit unique. It's not the grooves that we typically see. It's almost like a honeycomb-ish pattern.
Yeah, we actually, believe it or not, it's a bit. We feel like you do need some roughness on the face, and it's not real important what we found, what the actual pattern is. So we actually if you look at it real closely, it's actually the Paradox logo. So it's the little impossible triangle thing. And believe it or not, we had a hard time with the USGA on that. I couldn't figure that they were definitely questioning. Yeah, we went back and we had to go around a little bit, but they had a history of approving some things that had similar kind of weird patterns. And there's nothing, but we just wanted some surface roughness on it from an engineering standpoint, and from a artistic design standpoint. Someone had the idea, hey, what if we just put in like I think it's called the impossible triangle, is that little triangular triangular pattern, and that's what's actually put in there to add some roughness to the face and the striking area.
Very interesting. We had someone in our community bring up dimple deflection off of putting, and I will admit that is the first time I'd ever heard that, or I had even thought about that. So I mean, that I'm sure that could be a full other conversation for another day, but dimple deflection and putting, that was that's how minute some of these guys get into some of the conversations. So if you ever want to have a deep dive conversation,
I'm not a big one. I know that DeChambeau's big into that, right? I think he actually marks his ball so that Bryce, and there's someone said it. He's big into marking it so he doesn't hit the corner of the dimple that throws his putt off. But I'm not sure about that one. I'm not aware that that's an issue.
Wonderful. Scott, I'll get you to just hang on for like 2 seconds after we stop the recording. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and this has been truly fantastic.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So for everyone else who's watching, we're going to stay on for another little bit for our little after-hour special, and we're looking forward to seeing what's coming with BGT Golf in 2026 and beyond. Okay.